So my story of survival started years and years ago. And the way that I have recollections of it is not the way that it happened chronologically. I always had what I called this black hole of pain inside of me. When things were calm, I felt unsafe. And so the chaos of the emergency department, the sickness of people in the ICU. I worked it's called a cardiothoracic post open heart surgeries, and to see the horrible things people do to themselves and to others. The betrayal of this person that I loved so much in such a very public way unlocked the memories of my child abuse. I had to take a break from nursing because nursing actually became too much for me. And I ended up checking myself into an inpatient psychiatric unit that specializes in trauma and PTSD because I knew I needed more help than what I could get anywhere else. And that's when realizing that I had been abused as a child helped me to start to tap into that black hole of pain that I had inside me. I at least understood what it was and why I had it. And so peeling away those layers was so painful, so uncomfortable, and just was so challenging. So I stopped going because I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to see me curled up in the corner doing nothing. And then COVID hit. And during COVID, I took what's called a trauma informed yoga instructor training. In my trauma yoga training, we did a module about how play helps us to tap into part of our nervous system that allows us to feel safe, allows us to feel connected so that we can start to heal. So often on trauma healing journeys, we hear people say, think of a time where you felt safe. Well, for some of us, we never felt safe. I never felt safe. I don't know what safety means, or I didn't at the time know what safety meant because that was never something that I had fully experienced. Because one of the things I learned when I was a child, growing up with the abuse the way that I did, is that I had to be small because to be big was unsafe. That's danger. My healing just changed. It just astronomically started to layers just started to peel away because I was able to release that stored trauma that I had in my body. And I started being able to connect my mind and my body in ways that I never had without shutting down. Constant stress creates the same impact as big T trauma in our bodies.
It doesn't take sexual abuse as a child. It doesn't take abuse as an adult. It is compounded small t trauma that can also create this massive state of autopilot for us, where we essentially don't have executive decisions nailed. And a lot of people are operating from that space without even that awareness. Now, on this podcast, listeners, you will hear some massive big T traumas.
Like I said, your body doesn't know the difference between an email and a lion. If it senses a threat, it responds the same way.
That stuffing that we are conditioned to do in society is essentially creating a trauma event for us, because we are not
Absolutely.
completing the cycle, the natural cycle that is required in order to not experience a stimuli as trauma.
One of the examples I give is think of now if you've been in a major car accident and this is a trauma trigger for you, skip this one, don't do this. But the example I give is you're almost in a car accident but you're not.
Essentially being addicted to the chaos, right? And essentially what she's saying, listeners, is her body got addicted to the fight and flight response because that cycle was not completed. Your body gets used to the physical reaction, the hormone releases, the way that our body responds to being in fight and flight. So if we then are not in it, the body is craving that state.
So our bodies actually, there is a real thing called stress addiction. So our bodies change and become addicted to the high levels of cortisol. Cortisol is one of our stress hormones. In fact, so much so that our cells actually change and we get extra receptors for cortisol on our cells. So when you start to come out of survival mode, come out of that fight or flight, you crave it. It really is an addiction. We all have one direction that feels soothing to us and one that feels uncomfortable. So go to the direction that feels soothing. whether it's side to side, front to back. This is where that tapping into our animal nervous system, discharge that energy. Play is where we get to experience that discomfort, not getting rid of it, but experiencing it in a way that doesn't put us into overwhelm or shoulders up by our ears, and then come back to the direction that feels soothing. Find that sway, let your body settle down, and then shake it out. In fact, researchers have found, and I don't know how they came up with these numbers, but they did, that our body gathers information from all of our senses at a rate of 11 million bits of information per second. And so, even a simple movement like swaying side to side, front to back, pretending you're a tree, gives you information as well as helps to regulate your nervous system when things are uncomfortable and you're starting to come out of that withdrawal, out of that survival mode.
Therapy isn't for everyone. I was a person after my suicide attempt in my teenage years, I was in therapy for years and never really felt like I was moving forward. It felt like all I did was re-traumatize myself in order to move forward.
Psychedelics are a huge, incredible benefit to people struggling, trying to find this mind body connection. Our mind is this incredible protector, and so it disconnects us from our body. So when we use substances like LSD, psilocybin, or mushrooms, that's the one I'm most familiar with, and ketamine. Ketamine is a medically approved one that you can use through a doctor. You can actually go to ketamine centers. I just felt like colors were more vibrant. Life was fantastic. I was able to feel things. My vision was more clear. I could just see things. I wasn't living in this just anxiety ridden state. I was able to perceive so much more. Johns Hopkins did a study recently in war veterans using psilocybin, and it showed tremendous benefit for the veterans having done psilocybin to help them with getting out of their trauma state.
Just opening the awareness that there are alternatives to talk therapy to help, particularly with stored trauma and get into the root of your trauma responses as well.